Hello and welcome to the Mega Monthly Zodiac Report. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Robbie Hunt.
Hi there, Christopher. Hello, everyone out there. And phew, get ready for Scorpio.
Indeed. And I'm Witecki. And it's, funny because I think I just lived the title Weathering Uncomfortable Growth. That's what we are doing here this month in the month of Scorpio. We think that it's going to be a lot of expansion and change. And the subtitle of the month is Embracing Space and Time as Friends. Yes, our
hmm
good friend, I guess, if we're going to get cosmic. But before we dive into Scorpio and those inevitables, well, let's talk about Libra for a minute and what you experienced in Libra this month. For me, it was the sixth house of daily life. So it was rocky for me. But how was it for you?
Libra so far has been very much the title, pulling apart and coming together, but more
Hmm.
me watching it versus really being a part of it. I mean, certainly I've got relationships that are changing, but it's been watching how other people are doing this accordion dance with relationships and not deciding, not really knowing, do I stay? Do I go? Do I stay? Do I go? All of that kind of thing. And so I've just been watching that my own self. And it's been good to see people have conversations about their relationships, but it's also a little sad to see the kinds of limits that people have put on their relationships. Oh, if you don't vote like me, if you don't believe like me, well, we can't even be in the same room. We can't do this. We can't do that. So it's been a little sad to see that, but not unexpected. And I think also I would add that the full moon that we had at 14 Aries, I don't have anything at 14 Aries, but for some reason that full moon just knocked me down. And it just was quite the impact on me and all kinds of things. So I don't know. That's what Libra has been for me so far. And just trying to roll with the punches, I guess. How about you?
Hmm. Well, Libra, I think was first of all, Virgo was so intense, and then Libra was so light. It's like I lost my balance at first when I went in there, and then
hmm
the eclipse. I mean, the moon you're talking about in Aries. It hit all of us Chiron Aries people pretty hard. It was for
hmm
us. It was the Gen Xers. It was quite a get your butt moving kind of thing. Like it was what it felt like, and throw away silly ego stuff too. I've come out of it much more humble. I'll say, truly accepting of myself, much more accepting of myself than I've been ever in that sense. But also anything that was out of balance during Libra was made just screaming loud clear. Like there wasn't any and overall we're not done yet, as you mentioned, as we tape this today, but I do feel like it has done for me is give me a very good new scale. You could say that the scales were upgraded to more digital now. They're more precise, whereas before I was using like the old fisherman huge things, like to balance my life. Now it's much more finite and clear.
I like that. I like the analogy on that, that it's becoming a whole lot more precise. I guess that it is. It's just what tool of measurement are we using for that precision? And is that the most life affirming way to look at that deciding factor? I
Hmm.
think a lot of people still need to understand the opposing sign of Libra, that being Aries, and not letting their own ego get into some of these relationships, but using ego for what it was made for, purpose and drive and motivation, and using it for that, and not so much about needing to, dictate our will to people in this forceful kind of a way.
Yeah, I really think with the Neptune at 0 and then Chiron all the way up to 25 when we started this, that to me those were brackets of the new we go that we're going to build, or which is comes down to new behavior, and that comes down to behavior with ourselves. And so for me, I mean, I have Pluto and Libra at 1 degree, so for me, the beginning of a transit is always bumpy because this is where I need to have sharper edges. But overall, I felt like I did craft a new response to myself, which is the Aries side of things, like treat myself differently, respond to myself differently. In many cases, believe it or not, you know, getting myself off my own back, like just like chill out, like we're good, like you're not doing me a favor, self, by being hard on myself. So to me, it was like a lot of removal of being really hard on myself was part of it too. Um,
Well, the whole Libra transit started with a bang because we
mhm,
had Sun opposed Neptune at 0 degrees.
mm,
And so to me, there was just a whole lot of realizing at some internal level something was about to reset. But I think that a lot of that was our own selves first. And
mm.
Libra certainly teaches us that the relationships we're in are only as good as us, and that opposition certainly showed a bit of that.
Well, not only that, but we had the 1 degree phenomenon. Going on where we had three outer planets at one point at 1 degree, and so we've never had the universe scream at us to love ourselves on three
Hmm.
levels at once. Which to me that was proof alone that it was time to evolve and ascend with all that intention. So I think a big part of the lesson was just repositioning a lot of myself to be more self loving. And again, it's so funny; it just slips beneath the cracks where you don't see it. I think human society comes from such a loveless society, really, that if you increase the self love just a little bit, you already feel like a king. And it's like, oh no, that's just the first step. Like you've got to keep going. So there's a lot of that came this month too, with that phenomenon. I think, which is interesting. That
Well,
lineup.
and it's been a long time since we've had the universe talk this loudly anyway. That whole one
Right.
degree thing that happened in Leo was a huge megaphone, but all the outer planets have done is just turn it down just a little bit. But the intensity of what they're saying is still going on, given
Yeah.
that the outer planets are at 0, 1, or 29 in terms of if they're retrograding. So look, they're still kicking us in the Astro about making changes that are not just meant for now. It's meant for how we raise our children and how
Yeah.
we interact with our grandchildren. This is generational stuff, and it's
Yeah.
meant to impact more than just us.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, this is. I mean, just our children seeing this change in our mid adult life. I can't say my parents did. So that alone is an interesting example. But also just the beginning stuff. Beginning of Uranus and Gemini, beginning of Neptune and Aries. Beginning of Saturn and Aries, beginning of Pluto and Aquarius, which we've been there for a while. But it's like we're so much at a new beginning. It's so clear. As far as what we're going to think and everything. At the same time, just seeing the results, and then Chiron at 24 too. I mean, starting off, I'm looking at the full moon, but Chiron is pretty high up there in the polishing our character all the while. So it's like as we come with this new deal with ourselves, our character is becoming maybe its best self potentially, or making room for our best self too. I mean, the universe is clearly putting a polish on human beings, and I've never seen that in my whole life as an astrologer. What I mean? It's always been
And
facing the
I'm
problems.
and I'm
Yeah.
with you on that. Totally with you. I haven't seen this, and Chiron up there in those high degrees to me is also saying to re-identify, maybe from your scar, but not from the wound. That because
Mm,
Chiron's going to go back to 22, and when it ends, it's retrograde. But it's a whole thing of, okay, maybe for a while you were the victim and being in that mindset was the best that you could do, but
yeah.
now it's moving into the wisdom of being healed. Okay, the
Mm,
scar is there, we can't deny that, and it isn't about denying it, it's about teaching from it, it's about living from it, it's about being the example of from it, and not trying to spit shine something that happened, but being pretty real about it, but also being a life affirming real about it as well. That's part of how I've been looking at Chiron and those upper degrees.
hmm Life affirming is a good way to put it. Yeah. And as a result, starting over, I mean, I do feel a restart, authentically with those early planets, those
Hmm.
planets' early degrees. I feel all that change happening. And finally, kind of definitely the licking of the wounds of Chiron in the high degrees. I mean, for us Gen Xers, really started putting down our, no longer judging ourselves for not, period. That's all I have to say, you know, period. Because I think, Chiron and Aries is like, got to do, got to do, got to do, and I think we're all kind of like, relaxing right before we do. So it's interesting in these times. As we move on, just, okay, I'm sorry, you want to add something to that?
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, so I think going into Scorpio, then it's I feel like a lot of changes happen in Libra that people don't know about yet, because I think a lot of it was private. In Libra, Libra is very quiet and doesn't talk about very much, doesn't share very much unless necessary. I've always noticed, and you know, and so I think a lot of people need also the strength of Scorpio to draw the line, and in many cases, to draw the line means you have to first draw the line with yourself. So you gotta quit doing this so you can stand up and do that kind of thing. So look, when the Scorpio looks like we are up for quite an uncomfortable path, as our title says, weathering uncomfortable growth. How would how would you parentheses Scorpio?
My parentheses would be that we're still going to be encouraged to create, but create under some pressure. And I think if you try to ignore this pressure, then you'll just be fighting against something and you'll be really, really tired.
Mm,
And physically, it will make you very tired. When I was looking at some of this stuff on my own over the past couple of weeks, the idea of when you get caught up in a riptide, that
mm,
they tell you stop fighting it, you are going to wear yourself out to basically give in to it. And the riptides always take you to their end. And so this
mm,
Scorpio is weathering uncomfortable growth, or call it weathering an uncomfortable riptide, but it's going to be about embracing it and
mm,
just letting it take you where it is. And it will do that through the concepts of space and time. And to me, that's that we just let things unfold and we don't put a time frame on it. We don't put these expectations on it, and we just float along with it. And
mm,
I think that that's part of the uncomfortable part, is that we don't know a whole lot of where it's going. But we've got to have the faith that if the outer planets are doing what they're doing it for a reason that we don't understand right now, and to trust that bigger energy.
mm. Yeah. Well, I think we'll talk about this and how everything ends up, but the moons certainly speak to that. There's a huge upgrade happening this month, and we're all being leveled up. It seems, at least on our values and what we deserve, and then we're holding space at the end of the month for something really gigantic. And yeah, it's to be, we don't know actually. I think the whole world is in that kind of feeling, you know. And this is interesting because it seems like it's been a heavy Scorpio for the last like five Scorpios. you know every time we go into season, holiday season, it's been sort of with a little dread and anticipation of the worst, bracing for the worst. But I think you're right in the sense of, I think we are learning how to co-create with the universe is what I'm saying. And so you're right. If you want to do well, you have to hold space for the outcome, but then be flexible with the path, and just allow yourself to drift down that current. I think we're going to be bouncing off the walls with society's energy too. And I think we're starting to also probably this month, we didn't talk about it yet, but really, space and time as friends, this is also space and time before you go watch the news, space and time before you react to something, space and time just to keep your cool is a big part of it, I think too.
Well, and we in this community understand the concept of space and time. We know what to
Mhm.
do with that, but how much of the world does not? And they will be the people who will be in that riptide, just doing this and trying to get back to shore. And shore meaning the way things were probably before 2020, the way things used to be with their job, a lot of nostalgia, all that other kind of stuff. And they'll be swimming to get back to it. And the more that they swim to get back to it, the further away it's just going to get. And so a lot of us are going to be watching that. And I think our hearts are going to hurt watching that, because we know how unnecessary that is. And we're out here, on top of the mountaintops screaming, don't fight, but they're doing it anyway.
Mm,
And it's that whole thing of, this is not the path I would have chosen for you, you know?
right. Do you feel like, I mean, just jumping ahead and we'll dive right into Scorpio, but do you feel that, it feels to me like the big changes are really around the corner in probably Aquarius or Pisces next year. But we're feeling like as if they're here now. It feels like there's gonna be a whole lot of hurry up and wait, even though we are, preparing.
I think that it's going to be a series of three big shifts. The
Mm,
first in February, when that Saturn Neptune conjunction happens at 0 Aries. The
hmm
second in April, when Uranus does its final move into Gemini. And
hmm
then July, when the nodes move out of Pisces and Virgo. And we have no Pisces energy except for when the personal planets come through.
Hmm.
There won't be an outer planet in Pisces for another 70 something years. That'll be Uranus. So I see that we're going to get a, a 1-3 punch, boom, 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 like that at the beginning of the year into the middle.
Hmm. I'd agree with that. And you guys, I don't know how you feel about Lost Pisces, but you're going to miss that because that was forced compassion, forced connection to God consciousness. Now you got to do it on your own.
Hmm.
Now there's no planets, harboring and making that happen. So, God have mercy on our soul.
Well,
But it'll be all right. It's
God's
about self
given us
compassion.
decades to do it, and
That's true.
but all cycles at some point have got to end. That's the whole metaphor of, like, Noah's Ark and getting out of
Yeah.
Sodom and Gomorrah. All things end, and where are you going to be in that ending?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, with that, why don't we dive in the first week?
Yeah.
um, into the first ending. I think we've spoken to the whole month, but the first week we title "Revolutionizing Trust Based on Self Love." And I feel like this is a necessary upgrade. Basically, we've spoke to it, but we've had a hell of a year with clearing our own personal boundaries. We rebooted Virgo, what we become. So there's been tremendous change, and so you've got to sit there and resituate with yourself where the line is. Probably give yourself more credit than you have in the past. Probably give yourself more time and space, a little more leniency, I would think, loosening the belt a little bit. But we're going to revolutionize our trust based on the self love aspect, which is Pluto. We'll talk more about that. But Pluto one is just demanding it at this point, and this is Scorpio. Let's not forget. So Pluto has a heavier influence in this time than the rest of the time right now. And our subtitle is renegotiating those inner boundaries. And we know this to understand this to be true. Renegotiating, I think, is that we have to go back and forth with how we feel. Jupiter has done tremendous work in Cancer, and so I think we've gotten a lot tougher and we've become emotionally more mature. And so now we can look at our boundaries and realize that we've grown up, we've matured a bit, and maybe perhaps it doesn't have to be drawn there or there, whatever that happens to be. And I think that the question of the month is, as I dive off into this, is how do I feel about my character being healed? And we get this from Chiron at 24 retrograde Aries. I feel like at 24 we start to realize, hey, this new ego of ours, the we go, this new, the part that I downsized, the defensive part, I've downsized the hurt part, the victim part, all these parts of our ego that was overreacting. And I think we've been sort of alone and licking our wounds. But now I think with Chiron displacement, we really start to feel like our character might have a place somewhere in the world. Robbie, what's your thought on this week in that sense?
I think the thing I would bring up is, I like how you said Pluto is we really got to pay attention to Pluto during the Scorpio season, given that
Mhm.
it's the ruler. But I like this square between the Sun and Pluto. Now, Pluto went direct, yesterday, day before our taping of this, and now this is Pluto direct, and Pluto stays at 1 degree during this Scorpio transit. If there are two signs that can see where something's off kilter, that it's not what it says that it is. And I've told people in readings, look, if there's two signs that can see through bullshit, it is Scorpio and Aquarius. You put those two
Mm.
together in a square, and this whole thing of what weathering uncomfortable growth, or we're having to go like this to do this riptide thing, to do this moving back and forth kind of thing, then it's going to be, because I think that square just shows us, yeah, there's something not right here. There's
Mhm.
something just not going on here, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's certainly. I think I look at it as a. I agree as far as the no bullshit. Like those are sharp edges there. You're not getting around that. You're not getting through customs with that square. But I feel
Hmm.
like that's sort of what it's about. I think Pluto. Well, it's first of all, it's already suckered to. It's already going to win on the Scorpio side because Pluto actually works for Scorpio or vice versa. So, Aquarius is going to lose in the end. I mean, like to some degree. But I think it's the Scorpio side that needs to sit up. Well, I think in this case, I mean, Scorpio has Aquarius outnumbered. But I think if anything, the Aquarius is saying it's time to step up to what you learned when I was direct and retrograde. So I think that's the real stretch
Hmm.
and probably some uncomfortable boundaries on the other side with Scorpio. But I think the Sun square Pluto is always, to me, they're lovers because step 10 is Taurus. Like they actually secretly are together all the time. I think to some degree, like as far as the universe is concerned and keeping things tight, that square. They're one of the two forces that keep everything straight in line. So this isn't a tough one between them. You know,
Hmm.
it's people who are out of line, I think, that have the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Totally get you. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I mean, yeah.
it,
Whereas other squares, I think, are tougher, like Pluto, Pluto. When the sun was in Leo, I thought that was tougher. That was
yeah,
opposition. Yeah, for it.
I
Yeah.
totally get you. I think the also too something to look at with this is the sun, the center of our solar system, and this is Pluto, the end of our
Hmm.
solar system, and it's everything in between. So
Hmm.
whatever that Sun, Scorpio, Pluto, Aquarius square is looking at, it'll get everything. When you just
Hmm.
look at the astronomy of it. So
Everyone's
anyway.
going to fall in line, 100%. But I would say you could say, looking at it figuratively, the sun is our heart, and Pluto's in the line, just like you said, but in Aquarius. So we really are sort of calibrating the whole solar system, the solar system, because at the end of the day, it's from your heart to where you belong in Aquarius, and it's from the sun to the end of the to the end of the galaxy. With Pluto, and so I feel like in a nutshell, this is like a reorg in a way, like the level up. Pluto just like dove in all the way up to what did it make 3 degrees last year? Step
Mhm.
three for
Yeah,
a
it
minute.
did. It did.
So that is, 0, 1, 2 are the primary states of awareness for all of life. And so I feel like, we spent a year saying you got to upgrade, and now we're going to feel the upgrade where things lift. That's part of the discomfort too.
Hmm. Hmm. And I'm going to add to our Aquariuses out there, Pluto sitting at 1 degree for so long. Look, we're being forced into this greater feeling of our heart, and not so much of the detach anymore,
Mm.
all that kind of stuff. And so I don't know, that square may be a little challenging for my Aquarius friends and I.
I I have seen y'all doing a pretty good job, to be honest with you. As far as as far as the Pluto to Aquarius, I've seen all the Aquariuses really submit to their heart and give in, and they don't care how goofy they look, whatever. They just came right through it. So I think what this is I think the next step. I think Aquariuses have been maybe a little shy, and then we're going to see more of a robust Leo-like Aquarian this time. Yeah, exactly. Well, I just think showing off and being okay with showing off, like that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting part of this week. Another thing, part of this first week, is that we have moving right into the beginning of this. Jupiter in Cancer will square Chiron. We didn't talk about that,
Mm-hmm.
and to me that's also interesting. This during we go step 0 through 4 this first week. It's October 22nd to October 26th. By the way, I don't think I said that before. And this time on the 23rd, Jupiter in Cancer will square Chiron retrograde, and to me this is a real shift, probably about our feelings about the future. Jupiter has really helped us to mature emotionally. I find a lot of people are coping with things they hadn't coped with, and Chiron, of course, is part of the problem. That was part of us in Aries. That was the part of us that threw temper tantrums and threw things or whatever, threw a fit, nothing else. But now I think what this square does is suddenly relieve pressure, and I feel that people will either feel like they're on a planet for doomsday, so they'll start building their shelters, or they'll feel like they're on a planet that's going to turn out okay, because the root intention of 24 is in that 6 to find the path of least resistance. And so I feel like a good part of the population is going to feel a lot better about the odds of the future with that turn, right at the same time that we have this new deal with ourselves with step 4. Any thoughts on that, Robbie?
I agree. It's 24 is that creative Libra degree, and
Mm-hmm.
it's looking at life in a whole new way and saying, I'm going to create something out of this. Okay, I'm
Right.
whatever Chiron wounding, whatever feelings have been bad. I'm going to create something great out of this. Maybe it's the next sad country music song, okay, or the next poem that just gets at someone's heart. But it is a creativity degree, and it is Jupiter that deals with wisdom and philosophy and the muse to the poets and all of that kind of stuff. So to me it's also that we could be very elegant about how we view our healed nature, how we view our character, and just be in a much more creative vein about it. I feel like Jupiter in Cancer can bring out the heart in us, can bring out the compassion. And hopefully it's going to bring out the compassion in ourselves, but also the compassion in others. as we're watching others do that final grapple of being healed and letting it go, and just watching people do that and giving them the compassionate space to do that.
Hmm. Yeah, perhaps being more nurturing to the bigger picture of life, perhaps being more compassionate to the opposite political party. I'm not sure. I hope so, but I see that definitely, and opening up and letting. Also, I see one thing I've witnessed too is the beginning of some class lifelong things healing for family. Families have had disputes for forever, never forgiven this. So we're starting to see like these lifelong pains start to heal too, and maybe because the healed ego doesn't need to win so much, and the cancer, how cancer claws just can't let it go. But I think maybe they can let it go. Some of those feelings go now. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Totally get you. Totally get you. All right. You want to let me go ahead and take week 2 here, and let's talk about what these steps 5 through 11 are going to be. And this is the time period of October 27th through November 2nd. What we're looking at is committing to inner trust. And that the subplot is that we're reviewing our intimate self, but doing it from this whole new perspective. And that new perspective is not only things that we see going on in Scorpio, but it's so much that happened in Leo and in Virgo, and a bit of what ended up settling down with the Libra transit. When we
Mm.
look specifically at this particular week, there is one thing, one thing in particular. Mercury goes into Sagittarius during this particular time period. It does that on October 29th. And as soon as it does, it opposes Uranus. Now, Uranus and Mercury are those octave planets of each other, meaning that Uranus is that planet that gets these big, innovative ideas, but it has to channel it through Mercury in order to get it
Mhm.
here onto Earth, to be able to speak it, process the idea, that type of thing. And so that's part of where we're saying that you're committing to this inner trust. That inner trust is coming from a Mercury now in Sagittarius that is seeing a whole new belief, but it's at 0 degrees, and it's opening up to a whole new level of some of that kind of stuff. So this is also, though, a retrograde Uranus and headed back into Taurus. I'm going to say that with this opposition, that the idea, protect the idea, write it down in your journals, be very selective about who you tell any of this stuff to. But then wait until April of next year before you fully get into a movement with any kind of idea that may come to you, because you're going to need to go through some Taurus examination of it before that Uranus moves fully into Gemini in order to do something with it. But the
Mhm.
bigger question of the day when we move there, I forgot to move to our question. And what did I do with that piece of paper? Oh, right there it is. How's my self worth changing with this self trust? So, what we're looking at here is the sun that is in Taurus, excuse me, the earth that's in Taurus. If the sun's in Scorpio, the earth is always opposite of the sun, so it's there in Taurus. And that's why these two work together so well. Scorpio is scraping things out that Taurus no longer needs, but sometimes Taurus doesn't want to let go of. Think about
Mhm.
clothes that you need to take to Goodwill. But no, I paid $100 for that shirt. Yeah, but you haven't worn it in 5 years and it's out of style. Take it and
Mhm.
do something with it. Scorpio forces that. But once that void is created, Taurus will do something with it. It'll regenerate the soil. It
Mhm.
will plant seeds. It'll do this. It'll do that. So it will do something with the vacuum that Scorpio creates. And here it is that our self worth is changing. And do you trust it? That, I think, part of what that opposition of Mercury and Uranus is going to do is give you some radical ideas about what you could do about your world, your career, your health, your public positioning. It'll just give you this great idea. And are you going to trust it? Because it's digging into a deeper part of your self worth that apparently the universe wants you to recognize. So the second week, while a little quiet, it still has its boom in it every once in a while with that opposition. That's what I
Hmm.
think. What are your observations?
Well, I think
I think
it's it's going to be a new day, no question about it. Like I think we um, Mercury and Sag is going in there now to rewrite everything. I feel like we tell ourselves. I feel this is the obvious conclusion of the year of facing our karma and all the things we've done this year to become someone new, to become someone lighter and healthier. But I think the Uranus and Gemini though really is about to leap our thoughts like quantum forward. So I feel like we all know we ain't Kansas anymore, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in a way, like AI is changing the planet so quickly. I feel like we're basically saying it's a new world, and I don't know where it's going. You know, and I've said this before, but I think back to the last time Uranus was in Gemini, World War II. I mean, the average American didn't know what a Nazi was. You know, much less a nuclear bomb, and we went that far in such a short time with Uranus in Gemini. Now with AI, God only knows what's possible and not possible. So it's a new perspective, and you're right. I think it's a quiet boom. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very quiet boom, but it is a boom for sure. And some things just take off. I think something's going to take off after that too, because we're asking ourselves, what do we really believe?
And I'll just add this. I like. Thank you for bringing up the whole AI thing. What AI is requiring, though, in the physical, that being Earth,
Hmm.
data centers, water and power for those data centers. It's requiring the land, it's requiring resources. And so AI is forcing much more than just thought stuff and, creating some new video that you take out of a still photo. It's requiring a change in the physical as well. And I think we may get to a point where we go, wait a minute, that's encroaching on our physical just a little too much, and we're not gaining enough in the intellectual to verify or justify the physical. Just making a little prediction there.
Hmm. Well, it's interesting. Although I think we're all counting on AI to figure that out for us, and how to get it all for cheaper. So we'll see if it can figure it out. It's interesting, but it definitely is going to be mind blowing. Literally, I think every year it's like I can't remember that theorem about how technology will every 1.5 years will double or whatever the
Is that the
ratio.
James theory or something like that?
Yeah, I'm sure Adam will figure it out for us and tell us. But
Yes, Mr. Producer, if you could Google that,
yeah,
please.
but it is ultimately. I think we're there now with the human mind. Um, I think our human mind is going to be leaping at that rate that processors at speed. Moore's law is what it was called. Thanks,
Mm,
Adam.
yeah.
So Moore's law. I think Moore's law now applies to our mind. I think we're going to be blown away, blown away, blown away, just beyond what we had thought. So we're probably kind of very passive and taking a while to catch up what we think about it because it's going to
Hmm.
move faster than our minds do. But interesting moment.
Yeah.
So then moving on to this week 3, are you ready for that?
Yeah, let's go for it.
So and you did say the question there: how does my self worth change my new self trust? I just think that
Hmm.
I'll just say as a Taurus, it's like it's the trust that leads to the worth, really. You know, so it becomes symbiotic. I think once you have that self worth,
Yeah.
give yourself a lot more credit. So week 3 moves from November 3rd to November 9th. We go from steps 12 to step 18, Scorpio. This is, the teen degrees are always the most active degrees where the heart is sure and the heart is moving forward. And so we'll see a lot of shakeup this week. It's pretty incredible. The theme of the week is karmic evolution calls for financial innovation. So ultimately, we are realizing that, because our karma is being cleared, we now no longer necessarily feel the same worth, and it's time to really kind of have our life match what our boundaries are. Like to bring basically life up to speed. So it's more like don't. It's not enough to talk about it. Like pay up. Okay, I think we have a lot of phenomena with the Earth and Taurus is about where we have our abundance, and so I feel like this is going to be the week where you really see the potential for your finances to change or your net worth to change or your capabilities of to change. It's what you're capable of earning and whatnot. Robbie, how do you see that first line? I'm just curious for the change of value.
Well, there's been a lot of people who have been talking about the changes in our financial systems and what
Hmm.
needs to happen. And
Mm,
Pluto in Capricorn certainly showed a lot of that, where
yeah.
our financial systems are on their last little matchstick legs anyway, and maybe something comes out that there is something in the outer that happens with financial systems that forces us to look at our own financial systems, not only literally our investments, our real estate, all that other kind of stuff, but our own internal value. How do I make money? And am I getting value out of how I make money? I'm going to an office I hate for a job that makes a lot of money. Is this really a good deal? So and karmic evolution, absolutely, because of everything that's going on with Chiron and in its relationship with Jupiter that we talked about earlier. But I think that there's an evolution on multiple ends. I know it's the teen degrees, but I don't know. In some communities, I think we're going to just see that there's financial things afoot, and there are many who say that we're moving into times in which things like the Federal Reserve, how the EU handles certain economic things, that all of that is on its last legs and coming to a halt. And maybe this is us also preparing our own personal natures for that so that we're not caught up in some of that quite so much.
Hmm. Yeah, preparation for sure. Our so we will see, I think, change. If nothing else, maybe perhaps change in what people invest in or have faith in. I mean, gold is off the hook as
Hmm.
far as its value right now, and
And Bitcoin.
I was just say it's just saying Bitcoin looks like it's heading the same direction. I personally have a hard time, putting my money in something virtual. you know, I already think, vision for my career was virtual enough, but power to people who are making money on that level, and who knows what's going to happen. But I think you're right. We might see, a new coin or some sort of new United States direction. There's a lot of rumors about, going back on a gold standard or a silver standard.
Hmm.
The subplot of this month is rewriting the story I believe about myself, and this really comes from Mars and Mercury having moved into Sagittarius, and Mercury will station retrograde in Sagittarius. So we're really gonna it stations retrograde at 6 degrees Sag on November 9th. And so that is going to be the question really to the self of like really our philosophy about how we treat ourselves, our philosophy about who we are and what our story is to ourselves. I think this is going to change to that retrograde. So we're going to rewrite the story we believe. We used to believe maybe we were the victim. Now we don't anymore. We used to believe we were the might be the next coming, and it turns out we are. So there's things like that. And the key question to ask ourselves this month is, how is my new self worth reflected in my communication with others? And this is sort of a quantum question because you're raising your self worth, but we have Uranus there at 0 degrees Gemini, and then goes back into Taurus at 29. And so we're going to have that really that assemblage of potential, abundant potential, and the foundation of your thinking. And so I feel like there's, as you become more worthy inside, the foundation of your thinking is going to change entirely. Although it'll be a while till we get the actual words because Uranus going to Taurus first. So, Robbie, what do you think about Mars moving into Sagittarius and opposing Uranus retrograde, for instance? That's going to be a hype.
Oh, Mars opposed Uranus? What could go wrong with that?
Right.
No,
Right.
no problems whatsoever. Okay. Um, Much like when Mercury opposed Uranus there's a
Mm-hmm.
reset.
Mm-hmm.
But this is Mars. Mars acts differently than Mercury. Mars is dealing with ego and our drive and our courage and bravery.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that the most optimistic way to use that opposition is to move into a greater courage about these innovations, about the
Mm.
karma, about the innovations, and about the story that you are telling. And so it's the courage to say, I'm no longer a victim. It's a courage to say, I'm not going in that financial direction. It's a courage to say, this was my karma, and now I'm creating new karma. It takes courage to say all of those things. And sometimes the courage is to know who to say it to and who not to. So, there's a lot of things you shouldn't post on social media.
Mhm.
And I find that Sagittarius is probably the ruler of social media. A lot of people say it's 11th house. I still haven't decided, but I think that there's a lot of aspects of it that are Sagittarius more in nature. And so this is about, look, if you're making these kind of innovations, not everyone needs to know
Mhm.
because people will piss on them. Pardon my bluntness in that, but
Mhm.
people will look at it out of their own jealousy, their own.
Oh yeah, interesting. So we lost her there for a second, and oh, there we
Oh,
are. You're back.
okay. So, see, the powers that be must have wanted to not hear what I just said there, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that part being, be careful about what you're posting on social media, because
Mm,
when you post these innovations, these newer ideas, I know we have a desire to want to tell others so that they can do the same thing, but initially, people don't react that way. They'll throw shade on it. And,
mm,
just be careful with that kind of how you broadcast that, but have the courage to broadcast it to your own mind, your own way of how you speak, even if you don't speak about it. And the courage to believe in a part of you that history hasn't seen before. The
mhm.
you know, I I can put this down to something for me personally, and that is, I'm here in the Bible Belt in the South, and much of the evangelical religions here say a female minister, no, no, no. But in March there is the possibility that the Anglican Church will name their first bishop, who's a woman.
Hmm.
And oh my God, everything that is happening with that. And I'm kind of thinking that that woman, and her name is, I think, Margaret, I don't remember her name now, never imagined herself as the bishop, the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Yeah.
So this is the invitation to innovate what could be possible about yourself.
Mhm.
And okay, even in financial stuff, innovate that you've got ways that you could get resources. So that's how I would additionally look at some of that, and that Mars moving into Sagittarius opposing Uranus.
Yeah, I have to say, I think for a lot of people, they're here to now do their spiritual mission, and so I feel like we're talking about things that we believe inside ourselves that maybe haven't we told anyone, and we know now's the time. And so I think Mars there is giving you drive to put that into motion, to practice what you preach, to walk the walk, walk the talk. So I think to some degree it's that we need that push, to go ahead and make it so, because it has to be in motion with Sagittarius. It can't just be sitting idle in a book. It has to be
Mm.
actively talked about and told as a story. So I think we're going to really stir up that pot. I also think that we're also going to have little patience now for people who don't on the same page. I think there's been a lot of patience with the world. Like, okay, I think now we're like, okay, you just don't get it, or we just aren't compatible with belief structure. So I think finally, probably a separation of we can agree to disagree, right?
Mhm.
I feel like maybe coming up at that time too. Interesting. Well, that is on November 4th, and it's just one day later that we have the full moon in Taurus at step 13. So Mars moves into Sag, and then opposites Uranus, and then boom, full moon in Taurus. So we have a slide to show you here, folks.
We
The
do,
actual chart.
yay. Mhm.
We've pulled it off here, but the big thing is, I mean, step 13. First of all, that's one in your family. Maybe you should talk to it. But 13 to me is always that shocker. As far as surprise is concerned, didn't always see it coming. Step 13. I find when it happens, and even in yourself, and it's when you follow what your heart believes, truly believes. And I think that comes down to whenever life seems like it's going to be at an edge where you're going to end up giving up something if you don't do it now. So I feel like there's going to be some pressure this month. It's going to be. What are your thoughts, Robbie?
Absolutely, 100%. And additional pressure coming from that yod to Venus at 28, a Taurus ruled degree. Look
There
at
we
that
go.
yod there.
Yeah.
So a yod that's made up of that zero, Uranus there coming out of Gemini, and a 29-degree Neptune that has moved into Pisces. So,
Hmm.
like, whoa, look at that. And I like Aquarius ruled degrees that deal with Taurus, because it's Aquarius kicking that Taurus in the Astro saying, get up, move, innovate, change. But I don't want to. Yeah, you got to, you know. So I don't know. That's you and me right there in that moon there, Christopher.
Yes.
You're,
Yeah, that's true. And here Saturn and Neptune, a 4-degree orb. That is a quantum shift right there.
I hadn't
Um,
even noticed that. Yeah.
where so it's like Saturn is saying your fate must happen, and Neptune's doing, well, let's do it. I think when Neptune comes down, I don't feel it's fully. Saturn can say you got to, but Neptune showing up is like opens the damn portal. So there's definitely a portal vortex open. 28, of course, is the degree of Taurus. So we're at that time we're manifesting a new relationship to the world, I guess. I mean, to me, that 28 is like your spouse and your country. Like that's about all's there. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
we're manifesting a new relationship to that's based on this innovation of spirit, of the spiritual story. I would imagine this is where you actually change railroad tracks here. This is where you get, you get off of Amtrak and you get on the Orient Express. You're just totally different dimension as far as train ride is concerned. And Uranus at zero, it's like unlimited potential there. I mean, zero means zero is sort of a gateway, which is what Scorpio is about. You can bring anything and squeeze through that zero, a 28, a 27, any sign. And so we don't know what's slipping under the border there, really.
Well, I think that that's telling us how to use that 13 degrees. Uranus is the ruler of that 13. And
Mm-hmm.
that the breakdown of an old belief, like, I mean, have we not been breaking down beliefs for years now? But it's just another breakdown of a belief that you can't have some kind of an abundance, that you
Mm-hmm.
can't have some kind of more than, and to stop being in the less than.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, with technology and, this is a time, again, last time we had this, we went from, propeller airplanes to rockets to nuclear bomb. So
Hmm.
the potential for innovation and making money in new markets is unreal, as far as what
Hmm.
can be invented now. Nobody can be a millionaire, billionaire here just by finding that right, cool invention. And breaking down the story with yourself, indeed, Mars at zero, again, a Scorpio number. So Mars
Yeah.
saying, okay, it's ground zero now with this belief in myself. Mercury at its Grandmaster step 5. So Mercury is going, I think I know, I think I think I know what I don't know, you know, kind of thing. I
Hmm.
think I have to change the way I believe in myself. So this is a revolution going on here, which of course is opposing Uranus at zero too, which means all of our thinking is going to have to change too. This is a real dynamic. You might get a little seasick on this full moon.
The thing I also observe is the big pillars of this are things that are in the fixed signs of Taurus and Scorpio. Also,
Mm.
then, Pluto over there in Aquarius, you got to look at it because Mars is at zero. So you got to bring that in. Look at what doesn't have anything that needs to be anchored in, and that's Leo. And so
Hmm.
our hearts can be really, really open and receptive. Let all the other stuff anchor in for the purpose of the heart.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the heart is really loose. I mean, 13 is what the heart believes. So,
Hmm.
so the one is coming from the heart, and Pluto's like, protecting it and saying, and must be considered no matter what moving forward. But yeah, there's no opposition. There's nothing really getting in the way except Pluto opposing 1 degree Leo, forcing you to love yourself. As long as you love yourself, I think you have full access to for that love. It's not being hindered.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
of course, Chiron. One last thing we haven't noticed, this is the healing Chiron, where we think our relationships in the future might open up, and that's counter ranking. It's because of this character that I can develop a new relationship with the world, or a second going with my honey, or whatever this marriage is here. But this is a matrimony if I've ever seen one. And then let's not forget too, the North Node is 16 net 7. That's a Grandmaster North Node in Pisces, and then Saturn is a Grandmaster net 7 on the high volume there. So, and
Hmm.
then you have the ruler of both sevens, 4 more degrees higher than that. So this is a stairway to heaven right here. I mean, this is an accelerated ascension path where if people open their heart and just let go, especially when you have the potential to let go in Scorpio, especially like go to the next level. Like this is to me, a conscious escalator. You wake up the next day and, you just don't feel you belong, amongst a certain, let's say, value set of values, I feel.
And there's going to be a lot of that testing of belonging. This is the first of 4 full moons at 13 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to hit Gemini, Cancer, and Leo with 13 degrees before this is over. So there's a lot of that still. This is part of where the riptide that we've been talking about with Scorpio. This is kind of where it starts, because this is the chaos that you just got to have to give into. You
Mm-hmm.
know, lean
Well,
back
a
and
good
enjoy
chaos,
the
welcome
ride, kind
chaos.
of thing.
I think it's a problem you want to have. In most cases for most people, like for instance,
Mhm.
promotion, opportunity, and this could be literal opportunity. Especially when you talk about this time of year when you're talking about budget next year, with companies going to lay off, companies going to expand, whatever here. And plus, Uranus is coming down for some reason. Uranus coming down the Taurus says, hey, something's going to be re-engineered big time. Everyone's going to be re-engineering when that happens. So that means we've got news about what to spend money on. But you were also
Mhm.
saying this next series of 4. So it's like, okay, up the values, up the intellect, up the emotional maturity, love.
Mhm.
That's quite a spectrum there. That's basically redesigning the summer before we get there, and putting it on a whole new level. So, next summer here in North America could be completely different than any summer you've ever had. Of course, most psychics are predicting that also, frankly. So,
Yep.
yeah, rewriting a
And
story about
and
myself. Hmm.
and we will piggyback that when we get to the new moon at 28. That
Hmm.
28 new moon supports everything you just said in terms of the ability to be more financially whole, more resource abundant kind of
Hmm.
thing. So, yeah.
Mm. Indeed, we're holding space for abundance. And interesting enough here, so Uranus will go back into Taurus. So Venus moves into Scorpio. After this event, we
Mhm.
have Venus moving to Scorpio. So boom, we start accepting and receiving these new boundaries. Uranus goes
Mhm.
back into Taurus. Boom. Okay, time to re-engineer the blueprints.
Mhm.
Then Venus and Scorpio will square Pluto here at one
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah.
And so we already had the Sun do this. What do you feel like Venus, is following up doing there?
Venus is moving into Scorpio. She's putting the kibosh on things.
Hmm.
Does this serve? Then no.
Mm.
Does this bring value to you? No. Is someone disrespecting your value? Then no. I
Hmm.
see her in there as no is a complete sentence. No.
Mm. Well, when she's in Scorpio, she certainly can. She also says yes, whereas
Hmm.
she hadn't said yes before. I mean, Libra and Scorpio, they kind of get along in a biblical way, so she's definitely comfortable there. And really, when Venus goes there in Scorpio, when we have that protection, that step 0, our 6 really can open up and sort of dilate and take more in because we feel safer. So I feel like, I think it was all in concept when the sun went through there, but then Venus hits the page and it's like, breathe through it. You're pretty much going through labor. You go ahead and start to open up to what that actually means. But she makes it so saucy, it's easier, than otherwise.
Well, she is saucy. And here
Hmm.
is the thing, she is that open receptive. But this
Hmm.
is now being open to what matters. And so maybe for some people who have been too open about a whole lot of things, this
Hmm.
is just make that funnel a little bit tighter. Don't
Hmm.
be quite so open. And that the opening, oftentimes, not always, but many times, the what you open up to means turning around and saying no to something so that the opening is available for something else over here. So I think we're both right. We're both looking at it in the same way. It's just in order to receive, in order to say yes, sometimes you got to say no. And sometimes in order to say no, you got to say yes. So the
Hmm.
balance part of Venus and Libra.
Something may have to stop for something to begin. Yes, what you're saying. Yeah, I
Hmm.
feel also Venus to. We're talking about self love. I mean, with the square to Pluto, it's like, yeah, 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 love myself, love myself. It's like, no, breathe in. It's like this is the follow through. Like, no, You have to experience it. You have to take that self love to heart. That's what it is. You know, there's two parts to the meal. One is actually generating the food. The next is swallowing it. And Venus is that swallowing of the food. And so we have to now swallow those words and take it to heart and let that affect us and change us. So,
Hmm.
it's real kind of a goosebump moment there that happens, I think. And that is when on November 7th. November 8th,
Hmm.
the sun in Scorpio then trine the North Node in Pisces. So the sun gets to 16 degrees and trines the North Node in Pisces here. So to me, it's like we have probably pure spiritual acceptance of our new spiritual path. What would you feel?
That's perfect. I couldn't
Mm.
say it any better. Yeah, it's personal transformation with the transformation that God universe opens the door to, and so it's transformation on both a very personal and spiritual level. Yeah.
Yeah, and if we've done our boundaries correctly, we can surrender. We can go ahead and like let go of the side of the if you of the slide, and just go ahead and slide down that slide and see where it takes us. So I think to some degree, you're surrendering up to God for sure. But you got a good team
Hmm.
up there. It's kind of hard not to be caught in this
Well,
particular
and
case.
you put it very well. It's a fast moving cosmic escalator
Oh, oh yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah, a slingshot, and yeah, this is a slingshot too. Because this is a retrograde. We're actually downloading, I think, from higher self here. We're downloading, committing, and then we're actually executing at 16, I feel. So it's like this kind of a heavenly breeze coming down and engulfing you up at step 16. That's what it feels like. And then at the end of this week, it just ends with a total kapow. Mercury will retrograde at 6 degrees to this following day here on November 9th. 6 degrees Sagittarius. We'll retrograde all the way back to what step number now?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I
Oh,
have my book here because I can't remember.
I can't remember.
It will retrograde all the way back to. That can't be right. Hold on.
We're going to get that. We'll look that up for you folks.
It, okay. Retrograde. Oh, no. 6 degrees Sag. Now, Mr. Producer,
What
oh,
was that noise?
I don't have it in this book. Why is that not
Hmm.
in this book?
Interesting. Well, this is the kind of thing that happens in Mercury retrogrades. You notice it's an instant energetic feel. We can look it up for no problem. Well, we'll take a second to do that, and I'll say just that to me, this retrograde, first of all, is you're going to have this inevitable crossing of Mercury and Mars, and they actually happen at 6 degrees where they cross. It's next week in week 4. But this tells you that you come to probably some conclusion that you can no longer believe something about yourself you've always believed. It might be that you've outgrown it. It might be that you just have addressed yourself incorrectly the whole time. As like, a lot of people have false humility. They put themselves down. They act like it's not a big deal when it is. It can be something like that. But because it crosses Mars, the ego mental conspiracy, that's usually what causes all trouble and all success. Both. We get your mind, ego, and the same thing. So I think we're going to see an ego reverse too. Like this is a way of behaving, a way of talking to ourselves, a way of thinking of ourselves, the story we tell ourselves. All that suddenly in a reversal. Maybe because we
It's
see it in the future. Yeah.
20 Scorpio.
Oh, okay. So it comes down to 20 Scorpio. So about here. So your attitude about protection, your attitude about what will transform the alchemy in front of you. So we replan for an alchemy change to change ourselves differently. And that's is that before the sun? So the sun's 1920. Oh, yeah, the sun. Of course, the sun is right there at that time. So interesting. Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
the sun
Sorry
gets
about
them.
that.
Yeah, no problems. No, it's quite all right. Um, you know, we have a lot of data to keep in our head. So why don't we hand off to you to do week 4, Robbie, and tell us what happens there.
Let me do week
We
4.
can probably
All
take care of
right.
it. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. All right, week 4. We have this week that we are calling long-standing karmic issues dry up, pushing emotional. No, was that what we have?
I
Go.
think I actually changed it.
Yeah, you did. I was like, I didn't. Okay. Trust in my feelings changes. That's right. I can't read my own writing right there. That's part of what we were looking at before we came on camera, folks. Sometimes we just make a last minute change because it just feels better. So, what are we talking about here? Trusting our feelings changes. Our feelings are changing. All right. Our beliefs are changing. All kinds of
Mm.
things are changing. But what's that one state of awareness that's right next to the heart? It's your feelings. And
Mm.
your heart dumps everything into the feelings. When your heart goes out, meets resistance or something like that, it dumps it into the feelings because the feelings deal with it. So, what we got going on here is that there's new feelings about our relationship plans and how we plan to alchemize life regarding all this stuff around us. Now,
Mhm.
break that down a little bit here. New feelings. All right, we got Jupiter in Cancer. It's going retrograde during this season and actually during this week. It's going retrograde. So we're having to trust, and trust is certainly a Scorpio thing. Feelings, Jupiter in Cancer. It's new feelings because it is Jupiter in retrograde, so we are revisiting some kind of feeling about the world in general and people around us. But alchemize. Remember, wherever the sun is, Earth is opposite of that, and it's over there in Taurus. And the reason that we said relationship plans, and that is because Jupiter goes back to 15 degrees. If you want
Mhm.
to know what's going on with a planet and what its whole retrograde is about, look at where it's retrograding to, which is why Christopher asked me that question. Where's Mercury going? Because that tells you a whole lot about what it is planning to do. And in this particular case, it is our feelings about relationship plans and everything that we've come to just understand about the relationships with others that we've been working on since actually what 2023, the end of 2023, when we had the nodes that were in Aries and Libra, that South Node in Libra, that was just starting the process of cutting and changing and doing things with relationships. And so during this week, that is the big thing that we're looking at. When you look at the question, though, here is
Mhm.
the intriguing question, and part of why we've talked a bit about resources. What feels most abundant in life going forward? And how you feel about abundance is a major materialization trick. It's I say trick. I don't even want to use that word. It's a step. It's a pillar, if you will, in what materialization is all about. And when you feel abundant, and I'm not talking about having $1 million in the bank, but that you have your beloved at home sitting on the couch there with you, that you're having fun watching kitty videos on YouTube, that you feel productive in the work that you do. That's what abundance is all about. It isn't about the bills that are in your wallet or in your bank account. When
Mhm.
you feel abundant with all this stuff, oftentimes it's the feeling abundant that you're sitting at a great desk, you got a great computer, you're working with great people, and that's what opens up the wallet. And so Jupiter going retrograde during this period of time really is retooling our feelings because what does Jupiter want to do? Expand them. And if you're feeling like crap, Jupiter don't care. It says, well, you must be investing in it. Here you go. Here's more. So we're retooling those feelings starting in the sign of transformation, Scorpio,
Mhm.
for the deeper purpose of I'm tired of feeling down in the dregs down here, the Scorpio underworld. I'm tired of feeling that way. I want to feel the light. I want to feel like the little seedling that is coming up through the ground, Taurus. So that's the big thing that is going on this particular week. We have Jupiter going retrograde. We'll talk a little bit about that. And Mars conjuncting Mercury retrograde. So those are my overall looks at this particular week four. That is November 10th through the 16th, and it is steps 19 through 25. Before we go over those specific events, what do you think, Christopher? What's your overall thought?
I feel this is where 19 to 20 is hard. First of all, because you're going from like being productive to being abundant, so that is difficult because you got to sort of like ease off the gas and just like let yourself coast. So that's a bit of a shift, and so I feel like really this week is about getting ourselves stationed for success. Because 25 is basically where yes, this is the right way. It's right before we commit. And so we're really facing how we feel about what our heart says, what our feelings say. 22, do we feel we believe in this? Do we feel we really belong with this? So it's a lot of like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? You know, and of course, if you feel it, then you are. But I agree with you that the fact that Jupiter stations retrograde at 25 Cancer, it's like the universe has taught us how to feel purely, what feelings to pay attention to and what not to pay attention to. And I agree with you. You can feel abundant about your job. You can feel abundant about your friends. You can feel fun about anything, and then transform that feeling of abundance to material or to other things. And so I feel like that 25 Cancer, it's almost like Jupiter's like that's the last surrender and forgiveness of what's wrong. And so I think we feel sort of like blood, starting to fill our veins. We start to feel that we actually feel abundant for the first time. That's what I feel like it's going to happen. We're going to really feel it. And this is part of why Mars and Mercury come together. It's like, well, I can't think about myself the way I used to. And maybe that was, one day. So, it could be something as like putting something on like one day I will be, and sort of just saying, no, now I am. I'm on that path. It's happening now. So it could be just a change of tense too that happens. But this week is, I think, you know, relationships all change when you come to them feeling better. So about alchemizing relationships, yes, because now we're not the same old crybaby and whiny person we used to be, or temperamental or whatever. So really, it's that shift in feelings that happens in the background. It's one of those things where you don't see but you feel. I mean, with others,
Hmm. Hmm.
like
The
just people are
shift in
walking
the
a little prouder or something. You're like, what happened to that person?
I'm going to also add to it the shift in the feelings and the prouder that you're talking about. That is the trine of Jupiter to Saturn at 25 as well. And I think I made a comment on a deeper dive uh, a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember now, on one of the Pep Talks, that Saturn is retrograding back to 25.
Mhm.
Jupiter starts its retrograde at 25. So these two big planets, they work together. Saturn, to me, manages and watches what's going on, and it will say to Jupiter, hey, this is a good time for some expansion. I made the comment that if both of these big planets are moving to 25 degrees, something's going to test our faith. So there certainly could be world events that happen once Jupiter starts that retrograde at 25, because if our faith is being increased, there must be some reason for it. So there could be some world events that happen that really test our faith. But the more internal, the more personal of that testing the faith is these changes. The
Mhm.
ability to alchemize, the ability to have a personal relationship with abundance, and the ability to trust in what's going on. That always requires a large degree of faith when you're making such big strides like this. So to me, it just is further, it's further magnified by Jupiter's trine with Saturn over there at 25 Pisces.
It's affirmed. It's locked in. I think it's like undeniable. Probably
Hmm.
those two planets are pretty big. They put up quite a punch, and Saturn ain't messing around, and you got a trifecta there again of the net seven. So you're being sucked into that inevitability.
Hmm.
you know, the fate you signed
Hmm.
up for before you're born. Yeah,
Hmm.
pretty impressive. All
Yeah.
right, well, I think it signs up this week then. So that's trusting your feelings. So I think November 10th through 16th is a real woozy week. It usually is, and this year obviously so. And then we come to week 5, where it's really the most powerful explosion of the whole month. I mean, this is where everything just comes together like a supernova, right?
Hmm.
We coined this week making new space to meet high caliber output. And so making new space refers to the new moon in Scorpio. We'll talk about that in a minute. We'll show you the chart at step 28 Scorpio. And the new moon is, step 28 Scorpio. And so that ultimately is going to be us, telling the future to make some room for us because we're going to have a seat at that table. And that's rare that we do that, by the way. This also begins a number of 28-degree moons, new moons. Is that correct? How many do we have after this?
We've got 6 all total. This is the second of those 28-degree new moons.
So this is like six. The universe beats on the drum 6 times. Hold space for something bigger. Hold space for something bigger. Hold space for something bigger. And each one of these. So this is, but Scorpio. There's no more. There's no hold space like there is in hold space Scorpio. Scorpio
Hmm.
is absolute. Will hold the space. Thank you very much.
Hmm.
So we're calling the subplot of this. Now that we're meeting this high caliber output, to alchemizing spiritual and physical limits. And we feel that that's going to be due to the 29s we have going on. We got, Taurus at 29. I mean, Uranus at 29 Taurus. And we have Neptune hitting back at 29 Pisces. So that is like literally changing the rules of the matrix from what I understand. So our question for this week, this final week, is what feeling is being committed in order to materialize the future? Because that's what it comes down to. The universe pretty much accepts pictures and frequencies as communication more than anything. And so these 28s for 6 months in a row, I mean, ideally you want to coordinate those also to have the same feeling. But that feeling of you in the end, that feeling of how you want to end up is your direction to the universe, or the universe directions to what to bring for you. So you want to, what feeling is that? You want to find that feeling, you want to commit to it, and you want to memorize it and bring it up as necessary, especially for the full moon. So, just to sum off, this is going to be from steps 26 to 29. This is the wrap up of Scorpio this week, and it goes from November 17th to 21st. So, slides into Thanksgiving here in the United States. Where do you want to start, Robbie?
Well, all right, let's start it off with that Mercury starts this week going into Scorpio. And so it's in a retrograde, it's going deep into the upper limits now of Scorpio. So to me, that's where our mind can start to get around the idea of alchemizing. This is an alchemy week. And I think Mercury moving into Scorpio starts it off. That's where I would start, you
Mm,
know.
yeah.
That,
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, and that's where the mind can no longer deny or get away with lying. So, that kind of happens as well. Then we have,
mhm.
of course, Mercury retrograde in Scorpio opposes Uranus retrograde at 29 degrees Taurus. And this is trining Neptune and retrograde at 29 Pisces. So this is our first alchemizing spiritual and physical limits, I would say, where the mind sort of melts down, right?
The mind's certainly going to get tested at
Hmm.
29.
Hmm.
So some ideas could come up from the old the old way of being. And part of what I tell people, when you're going through this kind of transformation, you still have the memories of the person you used to be,
Mm.
and those memories will come up and we will misinterpret them as something that we need to deal with now. And it's just a
Hmm.
final little dusting and cleaning. It doesn't mean that it's come back up for you to need to worry about it. So I think that that is part of what could happen with that 29-degree little goggle there, of that things are tested. Old ideas about intuition, old ideas about abundance come up, but it's to just get yourself on that. No, this is the way of being at 29 at 11. I'm moving into that space of loving myself and loving myself some more, and that means that that old idea has no place in this new one. So
I think we have some surprises for that particular opposition, because 29 is such a flexible degree as far as what can come through that moment, that anomaly. This is where the pink giraffe comes through the sky, kind of thing. And so I have a feeling that Mercury is not really hasn't really been between the chopsticks of Neptune and Uranus before. And so I think it's gonna be a hell of a mind game there for Mercury. A real wake up call. You might see something you never wanted to see, never thought you could see too.
well, that's true. That's two big planets with little old Mercury in the middle of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and 29. I mean, talk about Mercury's two enemies: emotion and ego. So tearing Mercury apart there. Just gotta be mindful of your feelings and respond to them directly. I think is what has to
Hmm.
happen. But
Yeah.
anyways, that's a shift show. So this is November 18th, 19th. These are in a row, and then November 20th, boom, new moon. So this is like a roller coaster of change. I guess we can bring up the moon here. We have a slide for it.
Hmm.
Go here. We had our full moon. We'll go down to our new moon. So here we go, Robbie. Look at this stellium here. Isn't that just a beaut
Hmm. Look at
at
that.
28 degrees? Yeah. So So we're being mindful. So first of all, we're committing to a feeling, and the feelings are right here. They're ready to commit to. They're not far away from us. It's a new moon. This is a very dense new moon. I mean, this is like a heavy new moon. We might feel tremendous heavy change, just in the air, right? And having the fact that it is trining all this serious energy here. Now North Node 15, Saturn 25, Neptune 29. These two are still 4 degrees apart. This has now moved to a more of a peaceful journey, to let your heart open up and release. But this is a commandment here. To me, this is the manifestation, holding space for this. So the way it works is we put a big, wormhole here, and then what happens is next year, right where Uranus is, we get something manifest right over here.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help but remember that the Sun conjuncted Jupiter at 28 degrees in our Unite the Light 1.
Mm-hmm.
Was the Unite the Light 1 we had that. So it's like that planted the seed. So I think by next year, in May, this vortex here is holding the space for this manifestation of the Earth here. We're going to manifest some big project probably by May. I would say you start to see that come up. What do you feel?
I'm initially, I need to go back and do a little bit of looking. When was the last time we had a new moon that involved Mercury as well at the
Mhm.
same degree? But
Mm.
that's a lot. I mean, that's Mercury retrograding. So our thoughts are certainly shifting while the moon is going forward and our emotions are going forward. And so much of what we've talked about with Jupiter and Cancer is that we're shifting that emotional state of awareness. We're getting out of feeling sucky and feeling like, nothing matters. We're done with all that mess. And to me, that's a bit of what I see there with Mercury retrograding, but the moon going forward. But look, that opposition of Uranus is no joke. And
Mhm.
I think I would add, let's just talk about, because to me, I wrote down while you were introing this week that this is an alchemy week. And
Mm.
I think that because of everything that's going on this week, this is the second new moon at 28 of 6. And
Mhm.
those new moons started in Libra, and there's 6 of them, a Libra degree.
Mm.
There is something about, I think that we're going to get big breakthroughs about what has kept us from breaking through.
Mm. Mm.
And maybe this is just a final kind of a push, and that it can shift your resources, but it's not winning the lottery. It's not learning about a new way to invest in Bitcoin. It's something in you. And all of a sudden, it just opens the floodgates, and it opens our mind, it opens our feelings. I
Mm.
think that this could be quite an emotional day
Mm.
where, okay, so here's how I'm going to describe this. I can remember the day in this very room that I am sitting in
Mm.
when I realized, now, Christopher, I know this is going to surprise you, when I realized how contrary I really am. When I tell people, they're like, oh, well, we're glad you finally figured that out. We've known that for
Mhm.
decades. But I got a sense about how deep it went, why I did it, how I could use it for my benefit, but how
Mm.
it felt so that when it was coming up in negating ways, I could push it down. So
Mhm.
let's say you and I are talking about how to put a mega monthly together. And
Mm.
I could feel when that contrary comes up. And it's simply because someone has told me what to do. But
Mhm.
I got to stop that because no, the idea is a real good idea. Get past it. But yet that contrary has also kept me out of a lot of trouble.
Mhm.
That kind of a knowledge that has kept you, because my life shifted after that knowledge. I was able to receive ideas. I was able to get put myself into much more of an abundant place. My health changed, everything changed. That's what I'm seeing with that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Well, there's nothing. Change is guaranteed. I think in this particular one, I don't think anyone can. Don't worry, you will. There's going to be a huge shift,
Hmm.
and what happens with these planets, and the holding space for it, I think is going to be the same as well.
Yeah.
Um, uh, um, the question is like to what degree and how fast? That's my question. It's like because the 28 is a whole new thing, whole new world. So uh, yeah, I mean it's hard to describe, but I think you're right with as far as your example of how the mind shifts and then suddenly it all snaps. You know that one thing you were contrary meaning that you were contrary. That your
Well,
country is
yeah,
using against itself. And I think
I've
that's what we
been
find a lot of this.
contrary to
And
that.
we find that you'll find that it was your talent, your own talent, that was in the way of realizing what you realized. So,
That's a
you know,
great way of putting it.
yeah,
Yes.
usually your own talent is what's in the freaking way because you're usually overusing your talent to compensate for what you don't have, which is natural. And then
Hmm.
because of that, you don't see it. And then suddenly your eyes open up and it all lines up. And I think
Yeah.
that's what we're definitely seeing here, with this particular new moon. We're seeing things line up. Um, I just right here a couple of things too on the chart. Just one thing is Black Month is at 26, so there's some fear of what we're committing to. There's a fear of
Hmm.
we're afraid of this. This is something we've been told not to commit to, or nice boys don't do that. But our ego feels in total integrity with who we are, though. We don't doubt for a second that we're wrong. You got
Hmm.
your ego strength right there at 11. Like I am right. Period.
I hadn't
And
even
then
noticed that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's a strong like. There's no doubt. you know First of all, Mercury's been brought into the Borg here. It's lost itself completely in the gravity, starting the day before. you know
Hmm.
so it's been out of touch anyways. It needs to be reprogrammed, but Mars at 11 is just really strong. And then the last thing too is just the Venus at 16, which is interesting because you know it's trining the North Node here, so we've got a real like download, and spiritual connection. This is heavenly sponsor is what I'm saying. I don't feel like
Hmm.
anyone can mess this up. I feel like this is fate taking over. And even if you're just clueless to your path, you'll just get knocked over the head, wake up on a train heading for Africa. You wake up there. It's just gonna universe gonna push you there if you don't see it yourself, I think.
And I also see 28 as it, it is done kind of a
Mm,
degree. It
it is
is
so.
done. It
Hmm.
is so, yeah. That, at the moment that, Yeshua on that cross, when he
Mm,
said, "It is finished," that was step 28. And when the soul finally split from the body was that step 29. So
wow. Yeah.
28 is it's done
Yeah.
kind
It's
of
a done
thing.
deal. It really is. You just got to
And we
hold the
got
note.
six of them. We got six of these things at 28. Look at what we're going to be done with.
We're gonna be done with we started in Libra, right? So new relationship with the world, new space, new what's the word? Real estate, new
Hmm.
belief structure, the conjunction galactic center, a new way of control. And do we go as far as Aquarius? Or is this in Aquarius?
Yeah.
That's a new reality right there, a new humanity. So pretty. And then 13 is the karate shop. Karate shop.
And also, and because I see a comment here, she just sparked something. That is not only a new moon, but it's a balanced one because it is a Taurus ruled degree in Scorpio.
Mm-hmm. It's a master.
Yeah, and so that's why I called this an alchemy week. As I was
Mm-hmm.
hearing you talk, I wrote down alchemy week. You know that yeah, this is the magician card.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Where wishes become filled.
Hmm.
But up to 6 months later, little qualifier there.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, yeah.
But that they got a little time to do that stuff. But I think you feel it and you feel it coming. I mean, I felt psychic intuitively this whole year that there was something going down. That we're going to realize something at the end of this year, and that we're going to carry that through the spring. And even at Sirius Joy here, it's been like getting ready for that February because it just feels like something's going to happen. And this is, I think, the kickoff of it. This new moon at 28, and then every other new moon. You know, every new moon after that is sort of like following up and filling in the gap. So the relationship is Libra, and then Scorpio's like, okay, dig the hole, and then Sagittarius is like, fill it with some belief. And Capricorn's like, pour the cement. So it's like this is it. It's being constructed, and this is the turning point.
Yeah. Phew.
Yeah.
What a way to end the month, right?
Well, yeah, but it's exciting too at that time. I mean, in that sense, I feel like we've actually been waiting a long time for this, haven't we, Robbie? this moment where the Earth would finally get to where, I mean, I think astrologers have been seeing it coming for a long time. Um, but even then, we're not quite sure when we actually see the results. But who knows? I imagine some world events may kick up. We'll have to see what happens in that regard. Yeah.
I think all during Scorpio, we're going to have world events that are going to shape how we respond. And it's got to come from all this internal stuff that we've just been talking about.
Yeah, I think so too. And we'll see. Hopefully, it'll be a nice holiday. I know every holiday I've been predicting a hard time. Hopefully, this will be a good one. I think that things will be tense around Thanksgiving, but it looks like the real something is going to happen there. Well, right on Thanksgiving, that November 20th. When's Thanksgiving? 20th, 21st, pretty much that time. So
Yeah.
be interesting. Be
They,
around that table, y'all recognize. And a lot of people I know moved to other countries and other things. So a lot of movement going on right now.
that there is.
And that brings us to a little announcement we have, actually. We're very proud to announce that Robbie is moving forward now with her personal dreams. She has a ministry. She's been a minister since the day we met her, a metaphysical minister and an astrologer, both. She always had both titles, but you've only seen one side of her. And so she is going to be flying out of the nest, so to speak, and creating her own perch and creating an ally with here at Sirius Joy. She will be backing away from some of her responsibilities. She will stay on the Mega Monthlies and be a part of this, which I'm really happy to be a part of this with you, Robbie. But she's going to go ahead and hand off some of these assignments to our youngins who have been training for step astrology for a long time, and go build yourself a brand.
That's what I'm going to do. We've already talked a lot about what is going on in the world, and I haven't known really where I fit in ever since I was ordained in 2013. But about a year ago, I started realizing that it was not just the astrologer that people were hearing. They were hearing Reverend Robbie as well. And I have had a Reverend Robbie brand for a while, but that kind of got put off a little bit when Christopher took a sabbatical. But that whole period formed who I am now. And I finally got to the point where I was like, I've got to start moving into the reverend part of who Robbie is. So I have been talking with everyone at Sirius Joy and getting people ready to move into those kind of places that I had to move when Christopher went on his sabbatical. And sometimes life just knows that you're ready and you don't know you're ready, and something kicks you in the tail. I think I've done that with some of the folks there at Sirius Joy, but I'm leaving them in great, great hands. Such wonderful people. And my brand of metaphysical Christianity, yes, it's metaphysical Christianity. I think that these are the original teachings of Jesus. And as I see what's going on with the churches, and we mentioned this Archbishop of Canterbury being a female, there's time now for the women to move back into the ministry. And that's what I'm doing. But I can't do both and give them both credit. But I also wanted to stay on the Mega Monthlies because Christopher and I have worked on this for a year, and we have finally gotten our rhythm. We've finally gotten it down, and it took a year to do it, and it seems crazy to throw that out the door.
Well, and
So,
I'm so delighted too, because everyone's going to miss you otherwise, and I feel like the future is collaboration. So I love it. I love that you'll be bringing a new point of view to the show, and seeing where you shine with this. And I think yeah, I've always said this privately. I mean, Christians, I think, are about to be a little bewildered. Real soon here. I think we all know there's something not nice underneath that ground. So it's like we need to know where this goes next.
yeah.
Because Christ is real. you know,
And we've got
so
to do it before the age of Pisces closes. We can't let the
yeah.
age of Pisces get out of here without that original message of that unconditional God love that was manifest in a human. Many humans. Jesus just had a better PR director, but there were many of them. And we've got to get back to that. And that's part of what the age of Aquarius is waiting on us for. And
Mhm,
I signed up to be part of that bridge. And this
mhm.
is now where the bridge begins.
Exciting, really, it's great. We're looking forward to it. So you'll see Robbie every month for this live debut. She will be. We'll have some announcements at Sirius Joy TV, and who's going to be stepping up. And she's been training like crazy and giving us plenty of notice. So you'll see a lot of people you've heard before now come into the spotlight. But Robbie's going to be the queen of this ship. So happy to work with you, Robbie, and thank you for everything you've given to Sirius Joy. You've been such a tremendous investor, and so I hope we can equally invest in you and where you're going now.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to say more on the Sirius Joy side, but there's a lot of people in our audience who are not members of Sirius Joy. So for those who are watching and listening right now, I just want to say this. Christopher Witecki, there's been times when I've wanted to kick your tail, but, and you kick mine, okay? But if there is anyone who has shaped my career up to this point, it is you. And I remember the time that I saw that goofy astrologer in 2007 doing YouTube videos holding up pieces of paper. And there was something that came over me that knew how important that was. And it was not simply the step system, it was the man behind it as well. And I think that you and I have had this beautiful dance that I think can show others how to be in a dance with someone that you work with, that you're a friend with, that maybe you got a disagreement with, but you also have a deep respect for as well. And I hope people see that. And I hope that you see that and that you know how much you mean to me, how grateful I am for everything that you've ever done, for the opportunities that you gave me. And while you were gone, I hope I paid that back 100 times.
You have, and you were just getting nice with Pluto in your sign too.
I know you had to deal with Pluto not in my sign for a while.
That planet nearly killed us all. You know? It's a real tough spot in her chart, man. Woo! Yeah, we're all standing far back, wondering if lasers come out of her eyes or not. But she made it through. It was a real test of faith there. Yes, but it's an honor, and it's not even over. I don't want to speak like it is over. It's on the next chapter actually, and so I think we're going to continue to be a fighting force, especially in this next moment. I think to be a great team in this next moment because the world's going to need some guidance. And I just trust, everything you do. I've never doubted your astrological opinion once. You always have something I don't have, but never something contrary. So you're not contrary when it comes to our wisdom. I think we're on the same page 100%. It's the delivery or other things that, we screw off as Taurus and Aquarius. But, so it's a pleasure, Robbie. You've done a tremendous job. And you are such a, how do I put it, really brought divine matriarch energy to Sirius Joy in a way that we needed the whole time. It could not be counterbalanced without you, in that sense of it cannot be all Mars, so I think you held it with a lot of dignity in class too. So I look forward to the next step. It's going to be amazing. And wait till you guys see a new show open. I'm going to have us in space. We're going to be really wacky now.
That we can.
Yeah. Now that we have no one to answer to but our own brands. So we're good. Puts you in a different seat here. For the record, we will have a farewell party for Robbie 1 week from now on Wednesday. It will be airing at our classic time, which is, I think, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, right? And so we'll be having Robbie on stage here, and we'll be having some of our favorites up here to talk about Robbie and show some clips of things in time. So we'll be celebrating in a farewell 1 week from now. So mark your calendars if you're a Sirius Joy subscriber.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll make sure that I've got lots of tissues and waterproof mascara.
Totally. And we've got backup satellite, everything, right? Right, Adam?
Yeah, that we do.
Because when those Aquarians get upset, man, we got Adam too. Like things short out around the house. Let me tell you, things short out. You gotta be careful. So to everyone, we say have a happy Scorpio time. Be honest with yourself and be true. The universe is on your side for the greatest thing ever to manifest in your life. And we like to walk with you each step of the way. So until next month, I say farewell. And Robbie?
All right. Love and blessings to you all.
We'll see you next month.
All right.
Are you looking for inspiration to grow your conscious business? Sirius Joy's Board of Light is a sacred alliance of lightworkers, visionaries, and spiritual leaders dedicated to awakening conscious leadership. As a member, you'll receive professional support in the forms of bi-monthly Congress of Light meetings, exclusive community networking, and an array of guest speaker webinars each month to guide you on your personal dreams. First quarter guest highlights include consciousness architect Lisa M. Brazelton, Dharma coaching expert Sahara Rose, and Chiron specialist Karen Croney. Don't miss this profound lineup of wisdom. Join now for only $250 per year and be a part of the enlightened professional re-evolution. What are you waiting for?
It's in the stars to seriously change your life with a subscription to Sirius Joy. Sign up now for your personalized step astrology and daily pep talks. Highly predictive astrology sent via text and email. Daily Zodiac weather reports. Advanced lectures, classes, edutainment series, and more. Sign up today for only $3.99 to seriously change your life. Only on SiriusJoy.com.
This Scorpio season, embark on a journey of self-discovery. Create your soul manifesto. Unveil your purpose. Live your truth. Welcome to 40 Days of My Truth and Purpose. Enrolling now only at Sirius Joy Academy